Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Lyndon Barrois. Welcome. Can you give a little intro about yourself?
Hey, Deb. Yeah, thanks for having me. So, yes, I am Lyndon Barrois. I'm an animation director and visual artist, and I work in the visual effects arena, feature films, and other venues, and then the short film venue as well. I wear a few hats. We'll get through all of them, yeah. Because every time someone asks me that question, I try to figure out, okay, what exactly should it be? Because you'll find out.
Yes, I did my research. So my first question is, where are you from and how was it growing up?
I am from New Orleans, Louisiana. So yeah, NOLA, and it was awesome growing up in NOLA. I mean, you know the place. It's an awesome town. It's a decadent little town. It's everything you would imagine it to be. It's small, so it's compact, and everything is pretty damn close. So it's not, and so, which is weird because it does sit in a bowl, which is why it floods so often. So it is gumbo. The city itself is gumbo because everything is mixed together. The music, the food, the parties. I mean, everything. You drop a hat in New Orleans and there's a party. Like there's always some reason or excuse to throw a party or some festival.
Yes, there is.
So growing up there, there was always something to do. Even if you didn't care to, you knew it was there at your access. So it was a fun place to be, and it really shaped who I am, and from all my schooling there, and then and we talked about Delgado earlier, going to Delgado for a while, community college, and then going to Xavier, where I got my BFA, Xavier. And then from Xavier, all of that Black Go, all of that prepared me for Cal Arts. The move when I finally made the move to California to be in the industry.
Okay, so I want you to answer. This is a test. I want you to answer this question in the New Orleans way, not the American way. Okay.
Okay.
What school did you go to?
St. Aug. You knew the answer.
I want to see if you were going to answer it correctly.
It's a high school answer.
And Detroit is kind of like that too, depending on where you at. They're not like asking you what college you went to. They're asking you what high school you went to.
Exactly. St. Aug.
It was a test. I was like, let me see. I knew you were going to answer it right, but. And then I have not lost. I've been in LA since I've been in LA. Cal Arts is technically LA because LA County, but it's not LA. It's Valencia, so it's but I've been here since '92. I knew you were going to do it right. I have faith in you.
I haven't lost that shit.
So what was your original plan for your life when you went to Xavier? Because what was your degree in?
It was art.
So
it was always a profession in art. I just didn't know where. But I knew I wanted to be an artist, and I was actually studying more communication design, graphics.
Okay.
So for commercial art, advertising, whatever. Or for advertising, basically. So I was more into that, but I always had an interest in film.
Okay.
And how and what it took to do it. I just didn't know. I had no clue how to get exposed to it or whatever. And I had some successes as an artist. Like I had at that point, I had like 3 posters published.
Nice.
But I also I applied to some grad schools for communication design and got rejected. I think I mean, there were like Big Ten schools. I think one of them accepted me, but but it wasn't the ones that I really was trying to go to. Not that it was a bad school. It was just that it didn't have the other things that I wanted from the other schools. But I was working at a place. You know Yaya. You spent some time there. You know Yaya. Young Arts and Aspirations. So I was on staff at Yaya for like 2 years. And I don't know if you ever met Jana, but Jana dropped the CalArts catalog in my lap and was like, "This is where you need to be. You should apply there." So I did. And when they saw what I was trying to do, they accepted me. And I was like, okay, shit, this is the way to go. But I always wanted to learn animation because of these miniatures that I make. You know, I make these miniatures out of, well, I can show you. These guys.
Show us, please.
Yes. These guys.
Yes.
That's Althea Gibson. So
nice.
I make these miniatures, and I wanted to actually see them. I wanted to learn how to animate them. So it's Cat. Good old Tommy. I gotta get this camera right because I'm using, you know. But so I wanted to learn how to animate them and actually make them play because I would always play with them myself. I've been making them since I was a kid.
Right.
Even all through Xavier, everything. And when I applied to CalArts with my package in my application that this is what I want to this is what I learned how to animate because I sent photos and everything.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh Jesus, yeah, we got to see this." So I got in, and there you go.
Nice.
Here we are.
So, how did growing up in New Orleans and going to HBCU color the way you navigate the world?
Oh, it totally prepared me for that shit. You know what I mean? You know, I did. I mean, when anybody says to you, you know, don't go to HBCU, it's not real world, that's bullshit. That shit, because you get, I got so prepared. Well, growing up in New Orleans anyway, just that because look, down in the deep South like that, you just get faced with all that shit. So nothing frightens you in that respect. Nothing surprises you in terms of racism because you're facing it all the time. So when you're in a place like Xavier, it just even more prepares you for it. And it's not like all you learn is, black shit. You learn everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a university.
I hate the question, are HBCUs still relevant? Do they teach?
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
It's such dumb, misguided shit. Like you learn everything. It's a university. And so yeah, and the professors are all walks. They're black, they're white, they're Asian, they're Hispanic, they're Native American, they're everything. You know what I mean? I mean, the pharmacy school, Xavier is one of the top pre-med schools in the country. It's one of the top pharmacy schools in the country. You know what I mean? So yeah, so when people say that shit, I mean, my wife is Howard. We're both HBCU. So and we're very successful at what we do. So it totally prepared me for, I got terrific art training from, John Scott, who was my mentor and who was a MacArthur fellow. You know what I mean? He was a MacArthur Award winner. He's a sculptor. You know what I mean? So, it's not like
Io's dad?
That's Io's dad, yeah.
Okay.
my dear friend. You know what I mean? Like the dude was not only my mentor, he was my friend, like we were like brothers. And I love Ayo and the whole family. We're all still in touch and connected. I mean, Ayo's mom and my mom hang out. They're buddies, you know what I mean? So, but I mean, that's how it is down there. When you have relationships like that with people, and so everything that guy taught me, I still, use today in my work, and all the whole thing about the whole pass it on thing, all of that shit.
Yeah.
So that completely prepared me for anything I was going to face at CalArts or even in the industry itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember, through living in New Orleans for 12 years, you don't automatically get all the knowledge, so you kind of get it tangentially by interacting with people. And I remember seeing somewhere like there was like this white guy who went to Southern, and I'm like, you know, the law school is like one of the best law schools in the world, in the country, and I'm like, that's when I learned that, because I was like, what? A white guy went to Southern? Like,
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, it's one of the best law schools in the country. Like,
yeah. There's a lot of white, and there's a lot of white students at Xavier.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. You know, so it's just bizarre. But see, that's one of the things we have to do. We gotta fix those things and rewrite those narratives and take control of it, because these misguided notions just perpetuate themselves. People just don't know. And then, you know, we can't believe the hype and the self-hating. You know, we can't do that shit to ourselves.
You're right.
You know, it's just, it's, you know, shit is deep. It's deep, man.
So what do you feel about the recent news of Leica opening up a studio at Bowie State?
I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
It is incredible. Yeah. You know, well, I'm not going to say I spent time at Leica. I spent 6 months commuting to Portland when I directed an episode of the PJs when it was still well vintage. So the studio, the structure of it, it's still there. I'm sure the stages and all, you know, I'm sure under new management it's a different place, but and there were some cool people there when I was doing that. So I think that's awesome that Leica's doing that. You know, it's I mean, Leica's a fantastic studio and they do incredible work.
Yeah.
I was just blown away by Missing Link. I really thought that should have won the Oscar.
Yeah.
Beautiful film. Great story, the whole shebang. But you know, they keep punching, and it's great that they did that shit. And you know, I mean, of all places, I mean, you know, I just don't know. It just shows me how ignorant I am. Of all places, I would have never imagined Boise State, but shit, I think it's fantastic. Because I'm just not aware of their art or film program.
Yeah, I know Morgan State has an animation program, because you know when you know the conversation that always comes up every year of like PWI versus HBCU. I was like, I would have went to HBCU, but when I went in 2004, I wanted to go for animation, and nobody had an animation program.
Right.
So
that's
the only reason I didn't go to HBCU.
No, I know. Yeah, it's pretty recent. Yeah, but even then, I think because everything, you know, what you learn in animation is everything you should learn in straight, you know, in art school itself, or even if it's a liberal arts college, and you don't have a specific animation program. All the things of paint, you know, drawing, painting, you know, perspective, all that stuff that you learn practically in art school or in as an art major. Yeah, it applies to animation. So going to Xavier didn't stop me from being an animator, because I took all that knowledge and applied it at Cal Arts to learn animation. You know, so it's cool now that the schools are starting animation programs. I'm just interested if they're doing it properly. Yeah. And teaching all the fundamentals and not just going to a tool. Yeah. A lot of places have the tendency to go straight to a computer, because, you know, that's the thing. That's what everybody's going. And you're like, you know, the computer's a stupid tool. The computer does dick if you don't know what to do to it. And if you don't know what to do to it and you're using it without the proper skills, you're going to do shitty work. Meaningless. It's meaningless. So I'm always wondering and offering to advise these schools if they're doing it properly. And when I do get asked, you know, I try to go in and say, this is how it needs to be done, because it's a practical skill. You know, it is you know, you got to draw, you got to understand how, and filmmaking techniques and stuff. Yes, all of that. It's not just, you know, because anybody could take something and on a plot just move it from here to there. That's not performing it. That's just moving it. Yeah. That means nothing.
So yeah, to everybody watching, like, just remember to take that into consideration. For me, I didn't find animation as a career until my senior year of high school, so I didn't have time to think through all that stuff. I'm like, okay, animation program. Like, if I have if I had thought about it earlier, I would have like been more strategic about it, and you did. But it's just like, okay, senior year of high school, animation, a career, okay. Next thing, I need an animation program.
Yeah,
like my dumb self was like just surrounded by animation, but never thought to do it as a career.
Well, yeah, you know, that's it. I mean, you know, yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, because that, again, that's one of the barriers we have to get over, because we grew up watching all this shit. We grew up playing all these video games, all this shit. And we have to realize, God, somebody's making that shit. Because this is always the approach I took. Somebody's making that shit.
Yeah.
Why be one of those people?
Right. And that's why I talk to people like you, so that they can see our conversation and be like, oh yeah, I can make it too.
I can do this. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So they can figure out how to get in there and make that shit.
Right.
And that's where the challenge comes, because you love the process. Because it's such a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a model, right?
Yeah, I'm a modeler. Yeah.
Okay, so you work in the animation industry, but you're a modeler. So you're not specifically an animator, but you create the character. You build the characters in environments that animators have to interact with and perform.
Exactly. I always tell people it starts off empty. We have to create everything in the world.
Yes, and so we all, it's such a specialized thing. I mean, you can multitask and try to do it all, but when you're talking about doing it at a high level, like a feature level, you know, it's specialized.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're not going to walk in doing everything unless you're at a small boutique shop.
Right.
You know? You're going to walk in as an animator or a modeler or a lighter or a rigger or a, you know, layout artist or a compositor, all that shit. You know what I mean? So I always say there's so many avenues under that umbrella that you just got to find where you're most comfortable in and where you fit in.
Yeah, and I tell people all animation is tedious. It's just, what tediousness do you like? I like the tediousness of modeling. Animation, not my ministry. Rigging, not my ministry at all.
Yeah. Always hated that shit. Never even wanted to, you know, I have to know it in a sense that, you know, as an animation director, I have to be able to communicate to riggers what the animators need.
Yeah.
As an animator, you have to be able to communicate what they need without actually having to do it.
Right.
And then you always have to break it, you know what I mean? So they know how to fix it. But of actually doing rigging, oh God, no. No fucking way.
Absolutely not.
No, and even as much as I like to sculpt practically with my hands. I don't like to sculpt digitally. I could care less to be a modeler, so God bless you. You know, not no. It's weird though, you know, all the things that I never thought that I'd do, I just did the Unreal Fellowship.
Ooh.
And I tell you, man, have you got your hands on that shit yet?
I've played around with Unreal and Unity, but not for real.
No, they're different things. Unreal is not Unity. No,
I'm just saying, have you I played around with like the idea of what
you played with Unity.
Yeah, and I've maybe opened Unreal.
Okay, so Unity is cool too, because when I had a VR company, we used Unity, and we did everything in Unity. You know, Maya to Unity. Yeah. So Unity is cool, but get your hands on Unreal, and if you should apply to a fellowship and see. If, you know, never know. You might get you never know unless you try. Right. If you apply, you don't know. Get your hands on this. It's fucking spectacular. And so I had all that to say is I never thought I would do as much lighting as I did when I used Unreal. Because you can do everything in that sucker. You know, I always love, you know, I mean, I'm a character animator, so, you know, performance, obviously. And I always like animating cameras. I love that shit. Yeah. But when you can get in that environment, like that shit, paint that shit like exactly how you want, move the camera everywhere. I mean, I got more into the lighting than I got into the animation. I just love that shit. I love it. And it just finally hit me. Wow, this is why lighters like this so much. But
But it's also different because when you're lighting in the traditional way that we've been doing, through a pipeline and on footage and on in shots and stuff, you don't have the same parameters to move around as much.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're married to a plate.
Right.
But when you're creating it like digitally from scratch, oh my God, this I was like, what? So yeah, I did a project in the fellowship, then did another project after that shit, and then I'm planning on doing some more right now because I just love it that much. But it's weird because when we were developing Thundercats like 12 or so years ago at DD, we were writing. It was Kim Library and the team he put together, so I was on the team because Kim now is the CTO at Epic, and we were writing XSI to perform like Unreal is doing right now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so it took 12, 13 years to get to this point. I mean, that's how long that shit takes. But that's how long it's been trying to be done.
Yeah.
To get an engine where you can do everything in it. Because even the editor in Unreal is awesome. I mean, yeah. You just got to get your hands on that shit. You would freak the fuck out. You would love it.
I'll definitely do that. So can we get into your journey in art and animation in your childhood, and then you can wrap in like your gum wrapper thing, how that got started. So tell your story.
Well, that's what these guys are made of.
Yes.
Jackie. So these guys are, they're Wrigley's chewing gum wrappers. I was about 10 or 11 years old. I'm gonna tell it, I always get a kick out of telling this because I don't know how different I'm gonna make it every time. Anyway, in New Orleans, and I always made shit. I always drew stuff. Like I have, doodles and notebooks and workbooks and anything. Back then, we didn't have video games and shit. Look, video games didn't come online till what, like the 1980s or 81 or some shit. You know what I mean? So so and back at that point I was 16 or 17. So even way before that, you just drew it with everything you got in your hand, pencil, markers, ink, whatever. So I always drew. I always made stuff, whether it was aluminum foil, out of the kitchen. It was, phone wire, discarded phone wire, twisty ties, anything. Clay, I always had modeling clay around, whether it's Play-Doh or whatever, like Sculpey or whatever. Or even, gum from under church pews. You're sitting in church, you bored as shit, I'd be picking the gum, and then I'd pull that shit up, I'd make a muscle man. You know what I mean?
I didn't go that far.
Oh yeah. I wasn't thinking like shit. I could play with this shit. I didn't think somebody was chewing this shit. I'm gonna get COVID. I wasn't thinking about that shit. You're a stupid kid. So I'm just making stuff, entertaining myself. So there was a point when I realized my mom, she chewed tons of gum, chewed it all the time. She chewed it so much that the doctors were like, okay, you got to stop this shit. When you're chewing it, you're swallowing this shit's not good for you. So, and she just threw the wrappers in. And look, gum wrappers, you find them everywhere. You walk down the street today, they're everywhere. So I got thousands of them because I would pick them up off the street too after I started doing this shit. But anyway, I realized, okay, it's foil on one side, so I can twist it like aluminum foil. And the other side's paper. So if I twist it with the paper side out, I could color this shit. So I was like, and I had Hot Wheels. Everybody had Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels are real motorcycles there. I was like, okay, they're cool, they can roll, but they got no drivers. How the fuck are they moving? So it made no sense. like nobody's driving this shit. It can't move. Nobody's on this motorcycle. It can't fucking move. Somebody's got to ride it. Somebody's going to drive it. And so I started making people put in Hot Wheels cars.
and people to put on motorcycles and do all of this shit. And I would make motorcycles out of all of this shit. And that's how that started. So it turned into drivers to athletes, boxers, and then teams, football teams, all this shit. So it expanded until I started doing all the, and I just never stopped. And in my head, it was never, I just look at it as I'm making toys. I'm just, fucking, I'm playing with myself. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just making toys to entertain myself,
Right.
And never even thought about it as an art form.
Right.
And all through high school, all through college until my senior year, when you have to do your year-end show. And I said, John, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck am I going to do? It's going to be some paintings, it's going to be sculpture, ceramics, whatever. I said, I don't know. I got to figure this shit out. So I just lined up 2 teams that I had made, Washington and Pittsburgh, and lined up and shot a bunch of photos. Because even then, nothing was digital. You got to shoot this shit and go get it developed, and then come back and say, "Oh, fuck, that looks cool." So I showed John, and John was like, "What is this?" I said, "These are the things I make. I make these miniatures, man. I just, I'm thinking about doing something with these for my year-end show." And he was like, "Dude, what? Like, this is art. This is sculpture." He's like, "I don't think you know what you're sitting on." I said, "Well, no. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude, this is miniature sculpture. All of this shit that I've been teaching, all of that, you're doing it." So, subconsciously, everything I was learning from him, I was inputting it into my miniatures, because you could see, from the first ones where they're just gross and deformed, but you can tell they're people.
Yeah.
Up to the point where, when I finally shot the photographs, they actually looked like, because I had painted a whole field, everything. They looked like it was an actual game. And so he was like, what the fuck is it? And so when I showed him even the size, that was even more. So from that encouragement, I said, okay, well, shit, the Super Bowl was coming to town.
Okay.
And I decided my show would be a recreation of moments from previous games, from previous Super Bowls. So I think this was 24, and I did my dioramas of 23 previous games, and that's what started it all. And so HBO Sports came over, and NBC and Today Show, and PBS, all this shit.
Nice.
It was bizarre, yeah. And so I had no idea. I'm just, like I said, just fucking around in my room, just making toys. But that's what it turned into.
So what made you, you have different subjects now, but what made you concentrate on sports? And you call them sportraits, but what made you concentrate on sports as one of your concentrations of topics?
I just love sports. I love the pageantry of it. I love the drama of it. I love the politics of it. Everything about sports to me is interesting. And everything that, most of the stuff that I create or write comes from a foundation of sports or dance.
Okay.
Because to me, they're the purest forms of movement. And the purest forms of emotion, because you get extreme highs and you get extreme lows in terms of winning and losing and injuries, all this stuff. And then and then race, and gender. How that stuff, even when you don't think about it, it's in your face.
Yeah.
It permeates. So it's always been interesting to me, like I say, in terms of the drama and the pageantry. And so he was also one of the guys who dropped on me, because he was also a historian. And he dropped on me about the black jockeys that won the Kentucky Derby. I had no idea about this shit. But I researched it and found out there were 11 black jockeys that won 15 of the first 28 races. I was like, what the fuck? And so I say, one day I'm going to do something on that, and I'm going to do it with my miniatures. And that, a few years later, that was my thesis film at Cal Arts.
Nice.
My master's thesis film. So, you know, so yeah, between the black jockeys, you know, Jack Johnson, prize fighter. I mean, I want to do something with Major Taylor. You know, the snippet I just did for Cops and Robbers with, you know, with these, you know, with these right here, the ones I was just showing you. You know, it just, I just keep that narrative. And so even now when I do more stuff, I mean, the project I did for Unreal, through the fellowship, it was a riff on Major Taylor and athletes who train with running parachutes.
Okay.
So it's the robot. It's a robot pulling an air balloon, and Major is in the air balloon. So he's basically watching himself train. So it's an homage to Major that I want to do something more long form with Unreal, and something else that I'm doing that has, you know, that involves another athlete. But you know, it's that stuff. Like there's so much material there.
Yeah, because there's so much sports.
And there's so much. But you know, but then even, you know, but then it's also politics, because I did, you know, recent films I've done, you know, Ta-Nehisi Coates, the For Freedom thing I did for Four Freedoms. You know, that was with, I'm animating Chantel Martin to poetry by Aja Monet, and I even animated Aja in the film itself. That, and then the Kingfish music video. Yeah. You know, so there's things, you know, it runs the gamut of subject matter, but yeah, sports and sportraits are the driving force. When I did, just to show how gender and politics play into sports, when I did the foot ballet piece, the soccer piece for the Perez Museum in Miami, it's a compilation, it's a big diorama. The whole soccer field, but it's different plays in different sections of the field. So it's a compilation of great moments from World Cup history from 1970 to 2016. And when I set the piece up, you know, when the piece got delivered, it got delivered well before I was in the museum. But when I went there to make sure everything was cool, the director was like, you know, dude, was like, you're the only one that has women represented in their piece. And I was like, what? I said, you've got to fucking be joking. Like, no, in this entire show, you're the only one that represents everything. And that shit was just bizarre to me, because I just thought that would be a given. And it's like, the world, like the USA team, the fucking champions of the world, how do you not represent? So it's just bizarre how that shit still permeates, how misogyny is still there, because they even paid. There were even exhibits to gay players. I mean, but gay male players.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow. Because it's deep, you know what I mean? That shit, it's a worldwide game. And I'm talking about, there is no game that's passionate like soccer in terms of, like, people have lost their lives over soccer. It's fucking insane. But, you know, it is the world game. You know? Yeah.
So, let me list up some of your projects, and I usually list a lot just so, you know, the audience knows that Black people worked on some of our favorite things.
Okay. So, it's a lot to talk about.
So Summer of Sam, Scooby-Doo, The Matrix Reloaded, The Matrix Revolutions, iRobot, Elektra, Happy Feet, Night at the Museum, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Speed Racer, The Tree of Life, The Thing, The PJs, Parasite Eve, which is a video game, and your own personal project, Lift, among other stuff that you worked on with your miniatures. But
it's like 21 features.
So I know you only directed one episode of the PJs, but did you know your wife before that? Like, because I know you both worked on it, right? PJs?
Yeah, she was a writer on the show. No, when we met on a blind date, and I was at RNH at the time.
So was this pre-PJs or after PJs?
During.
Okay.
During. So we met on a blind date. And I think she was working, she was writing also on Jamie Foxx because she started in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
She's writing on Jamie Foxx, and I think going to either she was going to that show as the first season, the PJs. I don't remember. And the showrunners, the creators, Larry Wilmore, Steve Tompkins, and Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry and Steve were, I think they had done season one. I'm not sure. I just don't remember. Either done season one or going season two, because I think I did season two. I don't even know what season it was. But they were looking for directors. And Janine was like, this guy I'm dating, because we weren't married. She's like, this guy I'm dating does this shit. So he's like, works at Rhythm and Hughes. He's a character animator, so he works on all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But he also does this. And she showed him my films, the stop motion. I did 3 stop motion films at CalArts.
Mm-hmm.
And all, like the baseball, football, and then the horse racing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a digital world experience and stop motion experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so they interviewed me for one of the directing spots, and I got it. Mm-hmm. And so they were, I got the directing. I got the shot to do it. I went up there. I commuted for 6 months because I did all the writing here, but all the shooting was in Portland.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I got the Jackie Chan episode.
Mm-hmm.
Is the last African American hero. Oh my God, that shit was so much fun. It was so much fun. Yeah, that was a blast. And yeah, since directing that show, I've been directing animation ever since. So
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that shit was.
What do you like about directing?
Huh?
What do you like about directing? Being able to tell people what to do.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I just like being the fucking boss. But I also, well, this is the thing. I as much as I like directing, I also like animating. So I also, because even on all those features, I always try. I didn't always get to do it. But whenever there's some shots left over or something that was, like the schedule was running or other animators, we just have the time for other animators to do it, I would grab those shots and animate them myself. Mm-hmm. But I always also would animate the rigs before the animators got them. So when they got them, if there were any problems, I could tell them that it could do stuff that you were thinking that it couldn't.
Okay.
Then I would, if they needed me to prove it, I'd just fucking sit there and prove it. So I always wanted to know what the hell I could do. The only show that was really challenging in that respect, and I was able to build a really solid team to get through the humps, was the Matrix sequels, because those Sentinels were a fucking nightmare. They were a technical nightmare because, back then, what was that, 2002, 2003? We were still battling with things like spline deforms, this wiry movement and stuff, like snakes. I mean, now, like there are a lot of tools and plugins and shit. There's still things that need to be written. It's not easy,
right?
But it's a lot easier than it was then. And I had really solid team of animators who just were able to just jump on everything. I don't think I got to animate anything. Yeah. But I did, I got to direct it all, and I was on set for a lot, so that shit was a blast. But yeah, things were just, we had a really solid crew, and they did fantastic. These guys did a fantastic job. Everybody on the show. And, I made a lot of friends from all of those shows. All the traveling I've done.
Yeah.
One of the fucking funnest experiences was Happy Feet. Oh my God, I love George Miller. That dude was so much fun. He's so much fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a sweet guy. He's a sweet guy. I like being involved. I like going from script to screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like taking the script. I like, I'm not generally a storyboard artist. I've done storyboards, but I don't generally do it. It just depends on the project. If it's my own films, I'll do some, or I'll hire a really good artist to do it. You know, one of my best friends is a damn good storyboard artist. So I like taking the storyboards. I like breaking it down. I like doing previs. I like taking through all of those steps. I like, you know, the modeling and the character design being involved. I don't do character design, but I work with the artists and the modelers to do it to make sure they're built properly so they can move properly. I like working with the riggers, and then I love finally getting into the hands of animators and then directing the animators, directing the performances, because the whole thing is to make it all look like it's the same character or one person did it throughout the whole thing, so it's seamless. And that shit, because all animators have their different ways of working, their different styles that they bring to and all that stuff, and to mold all of that until it's all consistent is just, I love that shit. So I just love the camaraderie of directing and working with everyone. And like I say, when I get a chance to grab a shot or two for myself, I love that too. Then they're like, "Man, these fucking ass can do it too." Like, yeah, you know what I mean? So, because I never want to get too far away from that shit.
Being an artist,
still, you know. So that's why I like directing. I love that. It's fun.
So in your more recent work with your miniatures, I noticed that they have faces sometimes. How are you compositing?
Yeah, I do all the comps. So I shoot them all. I do. Deb, I gotta tell you, I shoot all that shit with iPhone.
Yeah.
It's all shot with fucking iPhones. I mean, the cameras are incredible. The shit outputs to 4K. I mean, now I haven't gotten to 12. It's probably now 8K. You know what I mean? So when this stuff projects, it's spectacular. Like people don't believe. Like when because when they're in festivals and I go to the festivals, and you do the Q&A, I said, my cast is here. I'll introduce you to my cast, and then I pull them out of my pocket. And people just freak out. Because they think, they're like this tall.
Yeah.
Normal, like 6 or 9 inch, puppets. Like, no, that shit just freaks them out. But what I do is I shoot all the footage and then I put it in Photoshop. Okay. And I shoot the actors as well, and not from like exact one-to-one, lenses and length and all that shit. All I need is an approximation because it's art. Right. And I have leeway with that respect. I don't have to frame fuck it like you do on, features. High-end projects, commercials, or game, whatever. So all I need is an approximation, the angle and the performance, and I can get it to work there. And I just composite it all in Photoshop and then just spit it back out. And it works.
It does.
I try to paint it where the face blends into the texture of the paper itself, the sculpture, so it doesn't just look like a,
you plop it on there.
Exactly, yeah.
You're an artiste. So, your animated profile on Ta-Nehisi Coast was pretty cool, and I like the Black Power Afro pick with the jail cell. I feel like that was creative. What is your process from ideation to research to choosing visuals and then execution?
Wow. I just for that particular one, it was an interview he did, with Topic that, and the interview was like an hour or so long, and I had to edit that down to, I think, what the 4 minutes the film is. And so I just wanted to pick the most, working with the producers, the most poignant parts of what he was saying, talking about fatherhood.
Yeah.
So when we locked that, then it was about, designing the imagery for it. And in that particular sense, the pick is such a powerful image in our communities that to go from that image that's so iconic and with the fist on it, because it is talking about Black power and all that.
Right.
And to use the bars because he's talking about how his dad's friend were Black Panthers, and then, the way that the government went after these guys, infiltrated and ruined the organization that they're prisoners now. It just talking about how so many people's lives were ruined over that shit, and he, as a kid, was witnessing this. And to me, it was just the imagery that came into my head when I was listening to him talk about it. And I was just figuring out, okay, how's this gonna look when I execute it? And when I started shooting, I was like, wow, it actually fucking works. So I'm glad that particular part, because you know, you're most people, when they see that film, that is the section that sticks out to them.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that, because it's validation that, wow, I saw it, and that's exactly how I wanted it to communicate. But
yeah, it was just like how I read a book, where like when you don't have like a movie to go from, you just make the images yourself. I wish I could have done that with Harry Potter, because they kind of I already had seen what the characters look like. I wonder what I would have made them look like before that. But yeah, when I'm reading a book or listening to something, you just kind of create the imagery yourself. So that's essentially.
Yeah, you just try to imagine it. You know what I mean? I mean that's what we do as artists, and concept artists, production design. That's what we do, because it all starts on the page. So you take what's on the page and just let your imagination run wild and see, you know, how we can create it and execute it.
And that piece was also like showing the important, like, okay, so I say like, when people ask you if you have experience, like professionals just know more ways to BS or like get through stuff quicker. So I know in one of the shots, I think, is it The Father, where you reused your Secretariat model, or you reused the model horse, the jockey thing or something, I think you said. Like when the father is standing with the son.
It's the dad. Yes.
So reusing assets.
Yeah.
Not throwing things away.
No, absolutely not. And look, I mean, look. It's funny you mention that. I don't have that particular guy here, but this. Okay, so this is Secretariat from my thesis film.
Mm-hmm.
The film was done. I think I made this. I made this sculpture in '94.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's how these suckers hold up.
Right.
So that guy in that film, they were the first to write about the black jockey. He was the trainer for Secretariat.
Okay.
Secretariat, the black trainer. Yeah. And so the way he's painted in the film is the way he was painted in the film, because in the photographs, that's how he looks. He's black guy with the cap and the plaid pants. And so I just wanted to, you know, not only pay homage to Ta-Nehisi's dad, but also pay homage to that guy and reuse him, because in the film he doesn't get to animate. He's just, you know, he's standing there with the horse, but he's just holding the reins.
Okay.
While they have the bed of roses on it. And in this one, I was like, you know, this guy should actually live in something.
Yeah.
So I wanted to use him for that film, and he's holding Ta-Nehisi and he raised his fist.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God! Thank you. I'm getting chills just thinking about that shit. Yeah. And it's a small moment, but it's a powerful moment. Yeah.
Right.
Visiting his friends.
Yeah.
Does it shit just like the comb.
Yeah.
And got his son by his side. Yes. Yes. And it is that guy. Yeah.
So, okay, you have the stop motion, you have the visual effects. So what are all the like forms of animation that you have in your repertoire?
Where are they?
No, what forms of animation do you have in your repertoire? Like because you're not just a miniature person, you've done visual effects.
Yeah.
What's all the forms of animation that you
It's mainly CG and stop motion. Most of my professional work has been in CG and visual effects.
How did you get into CG?
So when I finished Cal Arts, because I did all stop motion at Cal Arts. When I finished Cal Arts, you know, then you got to figure, okay, I don't want to apply this shit. You know, got to get a job now. Got to pay these fucking loans back. So I was hired by, I was going to be, and back then, this was, Nightmare Before Christmas had just come out. I finished in 95. I think Nightmare Before Christmas was 93 or 94. I don't know, something like that. So it made a big splash. And then, but also Jurassic Park was out and Toy Story. So that shit was making an even bigger splash because it's digital. Like, oh my God, we've never seen this shit. So I had meetings with Warner Brothers to work on Mars Attacks.
Okay.
Mars Attacks was going to be all stop motion. It was Tim Burton, you know what I mean? It's going to be all stop motion. And Barry Purvis was the animation director, the British guy, and doing incredible work. I went down there, met with all those guys, saw the footage. Fucking cool shit. I was excited. Oh my God, this will be my first fucking, yes! Let me back up some, because when I first came to LA and went to Cal Arts, I originally wanted to start It's a Rapper film.
Okay, yep.
And do, commercials and shorts and interstitials, all of that stuff. So that was my main goal. But I also wanted to see my name on the screen, because you'd see billboards everywhere. I'm like, fuck, I can work on that shit. I want to do that shit. So I wanted to see my name on credits roll up. And so I started to chase feature film opportunities, being a director. And so I was excited. I said, it's going to be my first film, Mars Attacks. And so every time they give me a start date, they would push it. So they pushed it like 3 times. And right when I was going to start for the last time, they're like, production is scrapped. The film is going CG. So ILM got the movie. And all that animation work, all that stop motion work that was planned for just got scrapped. And, the film went digital. And I was like, fuck, now I got to, figure out. I've never touched a computer. I've never even had a fucking interest in computers. Now I got to learn this shit. I got to figure out now how to, fucking do digital work. And so there were studios who were hiring animators because now everybody wanted to do digital.
Yeah.
And all the, visual effects houses had to transition now into doing digital work.
Yeah.
To stay competitive. So, and even Disney, going from hand drawn to digital and all the pipelines. Like, fuck, okay. So I had applied to different studios who I knew would train artists to use the computer. Because it is, you have to learn the software. You have it's a whole different discipline from being on set to, from going from this to, this.
Yeah.
So R&H, I had great interviews at R&H. Some other places, I don't remember. But R&H, and they all were, like I said, I also had those 3 films. So I had a lot of material to look at.
Yeah.
And they offered me a job, and I was fucking incredibly excited. And so I accepted the job. And then before I started, I had an interview at Disney. And Disney was so notorious for having people go through 3 and 5 rounds of interview before hiring. That shit. So I go and have my interview with Disney. I go to talk to Pamela Folks. God, you guys look like sisters. I mean, if you were wearing glasses, you would be a spitting image of Pamela. So I go, she was a recruiter at the time. I go and see Pamela. And I meet Eric Layton. I meet the whole dinosaur team. Because Eric was the director. I meet Eric, I meet everybody. Tell me all that shit. They show me footage. They show everything they're doing. So I'm like, wow, this is fucking incredible. So I go back. I say, okay, let's see where this goes. And I go back to Pam's office, and Pam was like, okay, so when can you start? I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, you're a stop motion guy. Eric's a stop motion guy because Eric was on Nightmare. I mean, he's done all that shit.
Okay.
I mean, so it's like, when stop motion guys meet, they're like, oh fuck, I mean, there's this whole, synergy.
Yeah.
And they're like, when can you start? I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, what, I said, what, you're hiring me? I was confused. Yeah. Like, she's like, yeah. I said, well, wow. I was like, wow. It's like full disclosure. You know, I was not expecting this. You know, I accepted a job from RNA. I just wanted to come and meet with you guys and get on your radar. She was like, well, what do you think about that? You know what I mean? She wouldn't really take no for an answer. But so I went home. I thought about this shit. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, I didn't want to start my career reneging. So I called her back. It's like, Pam, like, really, you know, I am flattered. I am just blown away. I say, but I accepted the job, and I think I need to see it through before I, you know what I mean? Before I, you
don't want to ruin your reputation.
Yeah. And she was like, okay, Lyndon, totally understand. Totally understand. She said, but you know, we get it. But just know one day you'll work for us. I said, okay. But anyway, so, and I never regretted the decision because one of the main things that attracted me about RNH, like I got to work on everything. I got to work on commercials. I got to work on features. I got to do Parasite Eve. I got to do so much shit and build a reel.
Yeah.
In a short amount of time, even 3 years time, I had such a reel. I had the kind of reel that would get me hired as a director at the PJ.
Yeah.
With the digital reel and my CalArts reel, the stop motion part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Disney, I would have still, for those 3 years, been working on Dinosaur, never being able to show anything.
Yeah.
You know? And not as a bad thing, it's just a choice you make.
Yeah.
Because those films are a long process. They take a long time, and you can't show anything until it's released.
Yeah.
Nothing. So, you know, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually be able to see my work.
Yeah.
So I never regretted the decision. I just, you know, it's a great trivia story to tell because it's just like, it's still mind blowing. But, and that's that. But that's how I got in. And RNH taught me how to use. They taught me how to use software, how to use a computer to animate. Yeah. And you know, and when you go through training, you learn all these. You go through all the because they're a proprietary house, so they were writing all their software. So I had to learn the modeling tool and the rigging tool and the lighting. And it's at a point, you know, and I'm just like, you know, because even the trainer, Sandy Scaritos, who was there at the time, Sandy, she saw like within 2 weeks in, because I think the training was for like 6 weeks or something. And she saw 2 weeks in, she was like, he fucking hates this shit. She was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let him animate. You know? So just set me up with a character or whatever, and just let him animate, because all the other shit was just annoying the fuck out of me. And
it's good that she saw that, though.
She saw it, and I was not, you know, I was trying.
In leadership and animation, people don't be seeing stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that shit just wasn't my thing. I went there as an animator, and that's what I wanted to learn, the animation software. I didn't care about fucking modeling, but you know, it was good, but because I needed to have a working knowledge of it to be able to communicate with this, and that was great. But she was like, nah, you know, no. And no, when that shit happened, I mean, I was productive. You know, that's you know, I got to work on a whole lot of shit. You know, yeah. But I always knew I wanted to move up the ladder. Yeah.
So I feel like we both are kind of like well-rounded artists. I sat on an advisory board for the Contemporary Art Center in New Orleans, and
you were at the CAC.
That's where I met Ayo.
Nice.
And so you're a commissioner for the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery, advisory board member on the Inclusion Task Force for the new Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science Museum.
Yeah.
Member at CalArts, and I'm sure more stuff. Like, what does serving on these boards fulfill for you?
You know, it fulfills it fulfills the I don't want to say the notion, but the reality that we have presence in these boards. So being with the National Portrait Gallery, you know, I have to say some input on who and what goes into the museum. It's it's a Smithsonian thing. It's a big deal. So it's fun. Again, you meet a lot of people, but there's also a lot of commitment and responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. Being a member of the Academy now, that's also fun because I'm visual effects branch, but also visual effects executive branch.
Nice.
And then I'm involved with the museum. Again, it's part of the Inclusion Advisory Board to make sure we're not left out.
Right. The World War II Museum in New Orleans, like they had an exhibit of the Black people. It's like, shouldn't they be included in the
exactly
not a temporary exhibit?
Exactly. It's that shit. That's exactly why it's important to be on these boards.
Right.
And then the same thing with Cal Arts. I was telling you the live Zoom that I did last night was the Black board members on the Cal Arts Board of Trustees.
Okay.
It was myself, Charmaine Johnson, Clarissa. I'm fucking blanking on Clarissa's last name, but she's in Atlanta. She's an alum also. Tina Perry and Don Cheeto. Troy Carter's another member, but he couldn't make the meeting, so it was the five of us. And Robbie, the president, and then Jordan and Sydney, who were the hosts, the student hosts. It was we had a blast. It was awesome. But it's important to be on those, like I said, because we need to be in the room where it happens. We need to be in the room where these decisions are made, so we can get vocal about inclusion and all that shit. Because we got a lot of wrongs to right. Right. We've been left out of shit for too long, and I'm sick of people giving us attention in the when tragic things happen to us. Because tragic shit's been happening to us for fucking centuries. We've been crying about it, but now everybody's got a fucking cell phone camera and can see it. Oh, we got to pay attention. Well, fuck, it's kind of late, but fine, get on board now. And fucking,
and be proactive now, not reactive.
Be proactive now. Stick with us, and then witness what the fuck is, what you guys are doing to each other. Like, because we've watched for this last week, we've watched white power on trial, and we're watching white power get away with it. You know what I mean? And you just go, if you fucking guys can do that shit to each other with such impunity, you don't give a fuck about us. So that's why we got to keep fighting and keep bitching and keep, stay with the struggle and make and changes and take over this narrative and make sure this narrative becomes a norm, because we won't shut up unless you guys stop doing this shit.
Right. Like, people be like mad at us, like, oh, what about Hispanic people? Like, bruh, fight for your stuff. Like, ain't nobody gonna think about Black people. We gotta fight for our own stuff. Why you want us to do your stuff too?
It's you
guys. I mean, y'all included, but
we all gotta. But here's the thing: we all have to be included in the struggle against white power.
Yes, because some other people of color groups act like the stuff don't exist sometimes. So
no, I know. Yeah, and we got everybody's got to recognize this shit. Yeah, because it's just fucked up. I mean, they hate us around the world. We're just like, oh my god, like this shit we just got to put a stop to this shit.
Yeah. I've been like right before I moved to LA, I finished a 2-year term as president of the Urban League Young Professionals. So I had been in the Urban League of Louisiana movement for like 10 years, but they had a program called ULEAD, which was the Urban Leaders for Equity and Diversity, which is how I got on a charter school board, which that stuff in New Orleans, charter schools.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was on Science and Math High School, which is right next to Lusher. And being an animation professional and like being interested in all this stuff, people don't always see like why you want to do stuff. So it's always interesting, like, to go through these programs to get more diversity on charter schools. And you're like, okay, lawyers can do this, accountants, the finance people could do this. If you are having a large network, you can do this. And I'm like, okay, so what can I do? I'm like, every time I was in one of these like fellowships or programs, I'm like, I don't know. I know people, but I don't know people like that. So I'm not a connector. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a finance person. But once I got on the board, I was like, oh, I can advocate for the children. Because they don't realize, like, science and math high school, Sci-High is one of the best. So when you think about the standardized testing in New Orleans, it's Benjamin Franklin, Lusher, and then Sci-High is close to like getting good testing, and then all the other charter schools are just like, yeah. So they don't, being a Black person and knowing our history, I'm like, okay, I know about the stigma in our community around technical education and stuff like that. So, you know, not everybody is on the path to college. So I'm like, when you communicate to these parents, you have to acknowledge that in the 80s and 90s, there was this tracking that if you went into the technical track, you were deemed stupid. So you have to reprogram parents to acknowledge, okay, you can go this way and make a lot of money and no student loans. Hey. So
yeah, it's constant education on that shit, you know. It's especially, you know, in the fields of art. I'm constantly having this conversation about, because I know so many people. I've met so many people who had these dreams but gave them up because they didn't think they could make a living.
Yeah.
Or got talked out of making a living by their parents and all this shit because their parents didn't believe it. You're just like, guys, like, it's such a vast umbrella. There's room for everyone who wants to do whatever, you know. And I've always watched artists make livings. And I never believed I couldn't make a living.
Yeah, and that's the point of this platform. I remember going to, there was a program called the Young Creative Agency, and I went to go speak to them, and a young lady who's Black, she came up to me after like, oh my God, I can tell my mom that I can make money in animation, like, because you came to
lots of money. For anyone listening, lots of money. Lots of money that helps you build wealth, because that's the other thing you have to do. You don't just take your money, but you save it and invest it properly.
Yeah.
I mean, to build the portfolio, to build wealth, to build yourself some leverage. You know what I mean? So you have control of what you, as opposed to what you can say no to, as opposed to, you know,
what you have to say yes to.
What you have to say yes to. Exactly. Yeah. Perfectly. You know, I'm gonna tell you a heartbreaking story. So you're a modeler.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever came across or met this young woman in New Orleans named Jenga Mwenda.
Mm.
Okay, because Jenga was a modeler just like you. And Jenga got to the point of actually working at Blue Sky in in New York.
Nice.
Yes, but years ago, I mean, it could be 10 years now, she quit. And we're still in contact,
mm-hmm.
You know, but she got out of the business, and she's doing really well now. She's in New Orleans,
mm-hmm.
And she's in real estate now, I believe, or something. But she also does community outreach stuff. She does a lot. She's mm-hmm. an awesome person. Awesome, but Jenga was one of the few Black women that I had met in the field.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh my God, we got to do this journey together.
Yeah. In these times of like a lot of stuff going on, like last year with George Floyd and stuff like that, I feel like mm-hmm. artists and like people in general only think that there's one way to practice activism. How have you used your art as activism?
God, last year was like my most politically active activist, whatever. I mean, my work has always had some political bent. I mean, prize fighter, that shit, right. You know, it's Johnson, but it's political because it's battle with racism.
Right.
But and then Ta-Nehisi also.
Yeah.
But last year, so I started off with the For Freedom film because that's about politics, about uniting the country. Asha's poetry and what Chantel is drawing. She's drawing the map of the country.
Right.
All these different ways. And then using all the For Freedom imagery, the billboard. But after that, COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I made that COVID chess set.
Yeah, I saw that.
The Portrait of America. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the second piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then I taught these kids in Gloucester, Mississippi for about 6 weeks. I taught them stop motion animation over Google Meet.
Mm-hmm.
How to do stop motion with their phones and their tablets. And just, freeform, and just, that was fun as hell.
Mm-hmm.
To expose them to that shit, you know what I mean? It was incredible. This is like all these black kids from like ages 6 to 17.
Nice. Doing
animation. It was awesome. The whole Gloucester program was incredible. So it was that. And then after that, I did the fellowship, but I also helped produce this PSA, this animated PSA called "Turn This Motherfucker Blue," and it was about flipping Georgia.
Uh-huh.
So Seth Mann, buddy of mine, he directed it, and we needed to find someone who can turn it around in animation. So we found this company, this guy I know in DC, Creative Junk Food. Yes, Creative Junk Food. That was the company. Yeah. So it's my boy Nabi Bilal. They did the animation. Big Sant did the song, and Big Sant Fonte did the song. It's fucking, it was so much fun. We did that shit, we turned it around and we flipped Georgia. So we did that, it's not, I'm not going to say it was because of us, but we definitely contributed. The song is bumping, the piece is a satire of Schoolhouse Rock.
Nice.
And it's incredible. It's awesome. And it did the job. We flipped Georgia for Biden, and we flipped Georgia for Warnock and Ossoff. So boom, did that shit. And then I also did, the second thing I did in Unreal was a PSA I did on Trump called Con, where I had you ever seen that one?
I saw that one.
Yeah, where he's climbing the Empire State Building like King Kong. So yeah, fuck. And yeah, he's getting tracked down by truth and lies, and yeah. So that shit was fun. I did that one in 10 days. I got so much into that engine. I did that shit, animated that shit and all that shit in 10 days. So those are the political things, and then just voting. So any way of using my voice that. Because we tell the history of all this shit. It's the artist. It's written or visual. We're the ones who tell the history. So you can't be quiet over this shit.
Right.
Somebody was like, you're going to revisit the chess set now that the insurrection. I was like, well, a lot of pieces that are in the set, this shit just came to life because they're in there. I got guns in there. I got these fucking white supremacists, with flags, and Nazi flags and a Confederate flag, and I got another one with, 2 fucking, M16s, because it's what the fuck they do. So I'm like, I don't have to revisit it. It's still telling its story.
Right. It's not new information.
It's not new information. Yeah, it's there. I did that shit in June, and yeah, we're still in this shit. So
I mean, people reusing the "I Am a Man" posters from the '60s. Like, it's not a new narrative.
No, it's not a new narrative, right?
Unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah. It's yeah. Yeah. We all can dream of utopia, but it is just a fucking dream.
Yeah. So what do you hope for the future of animation as far as innovation, storylines, characters, all that?
Story is always king. So I hope stories just get stronger and better, more powerful and more universal. Whether it's animation or live action, we have to be able to tell. And here's where it comes back to whether we're allowed to or not, because there's so many ways to make content now. We're not dependent on fucking studios giving us green lights,
right?
So, but we have to tell the whole spectrum of us.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not just
the trauma.
not just the trauma. Not just the slave porn or the poverty porn. You know what I mean? We're so much more than that shit.
Yes.
And we just have to tell them all, and in layered, everything. And then we have to be willing to be honest about all these things. It's so interesting. My wife did a short film called French Fries about marriage. People see it and say, "Oh my God, you guys are hilarious," because we know that's y'all. Oh fuck, you play that shit. But she was at a festival, and Anna Marie Horsford was one of the judges or guest artists at the festival. She was the MC. Anna Marie was the MC, and she gave an interesting answer because we were talking about why you don't see more films like that. Just talking about people, like successful people and what they go through, like the friction, all this shit, and the comedy. And we got to see more of that. And Anna was like, she said, we have to get to the point where we're comfortable with seeing that because we've been through so much shit. And we still got to get people listening to the shit that we go through. And it's like, fuck, I never looked at it that way, and I get it, but still.
Right.
But still, we've got to be comfortable ourselves. Yeah. To be able to show all layers of it.
Because maybe we're worried, like, if we start showing the joy, then they'll think we're happy all the time, or that not that we're happy, but that there's nothing to fight for anymore.
Yeah, I guess, but but again, that's why we got to tell it all.
Right.
We got to do it all. We got to do it like they do it. We got to do it all.
Yes.
We all live these experiences. At the end of the day, we all want the same fucking thing. We want comfort, we want happiness, we want love. We experience joy, we experience pain. We all do it. But I don't want us to see just experiencing pain through slavery. I don't want us to see us just experiencing pain through brutality or through, an urban existence, ghetto life and shit. Because, and it's not to say it doesn't exist. We all know it exists.
Right.
But there's so much more to us. We have to cover the entire spectrum. We do live, we all live complex lives.
Yeah, because I remember being at I think this was an Urban League, maybe Young Professionals meeting, and we were talking about, I don't remember what the topic was, but I remember a guy who was saying that, and this was his reality, but like, I liked Good Times more than the Cosby Show because the Good Times was realistic. I'm like, the Cosby Show was realistic for some.
It was realistic.
But people associate, particularly people from some certain areas, they only associate blackness with being poor or being from the ghetto, and it's like there's multiple ways to be black. It's like,
that shit gets me because you know what I fucking hate. I fucking hate when people say, God, why we gotta act white? What the fuck does that mean? Like, because you're educated? White people have never had the fucking patent on education.
Right.
Never had it. And you can't give them that ownership.
Right.
No, I want to be educated because I want to know about the fucking world. I want to be smart.
And the truth, because education comes from us. Like,
it's not cool.
We created everything.
It's not cool to be dumb. So that's part of And that's part of how deep this shit is. For him to say, I like Good Times because that's more real than the Cosby's. Like, fuck, man. The Cosby's is so real. Like, it was not a fucking fantasy. It wasn't fairy tale. We also live that way.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, you have to know all of it. Because as much as I know rich white people, I also know poor white people. You know what I mean? And their stories get told from every spectrum. So we have to tell our stories from every spectrum and not act like, oh, because, you know, I mean, they're Black billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yes, they're not as many, but that doesn't mean they don't fucking exist.
Right.
You know, and they just have a different experience. But at the end of the day, they all experience joy, pain, heartbreak, you know, fucking racism, all of that shit. You know, so we can't just, because we don't see it, act like it doesn't exist and we can't sometimes tell a story. I know when I was asked, you know, by the Academy, all the as a member, you're asked at some point to do lists of films alike. And I don't know, you know, I mean, obviously everybody doesn't do it because it'd just be flooded with stuff. But they ask, you know, every now and then, whatever your departments will ask you, or the Academy will say, you know, why don't you join in and list your films? So I listed my, you know, my dozen films on. It's one of the links to their site. I can't remember what it was, but the site is because they're all different, you know, the fucking Academy. Anyway, one of my list of film, one of them was Boomerang. And I remember reading a critique of Boomerang where it started, set in a world where African Americans run, you know, ad agencies. And I'm like, what the fuck? You never heard of Uniworld? You never heard of Burrell Advertising in Chicago and New York? Like big fucking advertising firms that's been around like for 50 years. Like it wasn't a reality. Like it wasn't a fucking reality. And I'm just going, what? You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is the world we're in. And this shit just is like, and that film was what? In the fucking early 90s.
Right. A couple more questions. What do you hope Black animators do in this current landscape that you're actually taking advantage of? Like, because you shoot and edit your films on iPhones. Like, what do you hope? And not trying to wait for other people. Like, what do you hope that Black animators are doing?
Just do that, you know, take control of your own narrative and make your stuff, you know, learn the craft and just make it, you know, because it's all a craft, definitely. But just learn it and do it and just keep practicing, just keep having fun with it. And don't get derailed by the obstacles. There'll always be obstacles. But yeah, you just have to believe that you can do this work.
Right.
You know, I'm just some, you know, dumb kid from New Orleans. You know, 7th Ward, New Orleans. I had no fucking, no leg up. No, I just hustled my way into this shit. And that's what you got to do. You just got to find your avenue. So, yeah, just do that shit. But again, it's about the presence. You know, you don't believe that shit. Oh, they'll never let you get. Fuck all that. Don't listen to the chatter.
Right.
Just do it. Yeah, because you can. I want more of us in this shit. You know what I mean?
And now the way of life is to, like, they don't want to give you money until you're doing it. Like, now, before it was like you could have the idea, but now they want you to have fans and content. And
oh my God, yeah, sure. So yeah, get as many followers as you can.
Content is king, but like, you know, like fans is whatever.
But even that, you gotta be careful about that. You know what I mean? Because that's not validation. I mean, you could have a lot of followers and your work is mediocre. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you gotta be careful of that because it is.
But mostly, create the content and then do something. Because a lot of people are like, they don't realize how the industry works because they think art is easy and they think everything else is easy. So they're like, I have this idea, but don't want to put in the work for it. Like, no.
Really? Yeah.
Create it first.
We all have ideas, so get in line.
Yeah, they don't want you, like, what do you provide to them by having an idea? What else can you do?
Right. You have an idea, but what's the story?
Right.
Yeah, like, yeah, right, the motherfucker.
And you have to make yourself valuable so that they don't take your idea and then shoo you off to the side. What we need you for if all you have is the idea?
Right. No, it's about putting in the work, man. It's about you got to do the work. There are no shortcuts to this shit. You have to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had a documentary, what things would you highlight about yourself outside of your work in animation?
A documentary on me?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Imagine the thought.
Wow. Outside of animation? Wow. COVID has been fucked because COVID has really taken a dent, put a big hit. As tragic as it's been for a lot of people, I do not want to diminish it or belittle it. It's been fucked up what's been unleashed on this country and the world. But personally, like I do this thing. I host this thing. I don't know. Like I said, I wear a lot of hats.
Tell us about all the hats in this question.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I guess I'm trying to get into. Because besides the animation, there's the miniatures, so there's all the exhibiting stuff and then all the board shit.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to DC a lot with for portrait gallery events. That was fun. So that's we haven't been able to do that all year. But I also host this thing at the house called I do Smokeout. So what Smokeout is? It's about 30 or so guys. The numbers vary. Sometimes it could be 20, sometimes it could be up to 50. But I hold this thing, throughout the year of the fellas just getting together. So we get in my yard, we fire up the grill. It's very primal. It's very primal. And I've been doing this for years. It's because it started with a small group of us, like maybe 6 around a Weber, and expanded to 50. But we started about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. We grill meat, we smoke cigars, and we drink liquor till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Nice.
And we just talk about everything. And it's just a way for us all to get together. And again, this is part of the layers of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's guys from all walks, all, economic, it doesn't matter. We just all come together and as one. We're all part of the Smokeout crew. And that's what we do. And so I guess to set up a camera there, and it's funny because if you see French Fries, Janine's film, she pays homage to Smokeout. Because this is one of the causes of friction in the film. And it's just comedy. It's fucking comedy. But because sometimes for Smokeout, Janine will leave the house.
Yeah.
Or she'll just stay upstairs and listen to me. You know what I mean? And at 4 in the morning, they'll be like, "Shut the fuck up, go home." But whatever. But Smokeout is all about the fellas. There's no veggies, there's no chicks.
No veggies.
Yeah. Even though some have snuck in, the veggies and the chicks, they've snuck in. But
You always have potatoes.
Maybe. You see, but this is exactly why chicks don't count. Because chicks ask, "Y'all don't have this? Wait, this is all the music y'all listen to? See, we don't want that shit. There's no kids, none of that shit." And that is Smokeout.
Oh.
If you set up a camera to Smokeout is a whole fucking documentary.
Yes.
It's just the best time. Yeah. You know, and even women are like, why y'all fucking do? What's that about? I said, don't be fucking asking me. Why don't just fucking do it? Because it's as easy as sending a fucking email. You know what I mean? I can fucking, I can send a fucking email about smoke out on a Wednesday because it's usually on a Friday or a Saturday, and you know, it would be like the last Friday of the month, or you know, last Friday every few months. You know what I mean? However we do it, it's just a very random thing. But it's such a regular thing, and you never know who shows up because people show up that I first meet that are the first time coming. You know, like people that I have seen on screen. You just never know who will show up, but most of them are friends, you know. But like, I always meet someone new because guys just bring new people because oh fuck man, you got to come hang out to this shit. So they always bring somebody new. But I can drop an email on a Wednesday, and by Friday I'd have like 30 guys because I mean we just all look forward to it, and because of this pandemic, we have not been able to do that shit in the whole year. Yeah. You know, so we cannot wait till this shit is over and we're all vaccinated and we could all just fucking chill out again because,
I just would like to advocate for myself, and I was not making a suggestion. I just was asking. I'm an inquisitive person, hence my show. So I just was asking a question about potatoes.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
So can you give the people your website and how they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, It's a Rapper on Instagram. It's, ITSAWRAPPER because of the rapper. So It's a Rapper. Lyndon Barrois, like my name is up right there on
Google.
You Google that shit, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. If you Google that, you're gonna come up with me and my son.
Yeah, I feel like one of my reach outs to you was possibly reaching out to him.
Possibly to him, yeah, because we and he always gives me shit. He's like, you got to start using senior.
Yeah,
you use senior, and people still get it twisted.
Yeah,
they just see the name and they just go right to the name. Right. But he is an artist also, and he's a painting professor at Carnegie Mellon.
Nice.
So yeah, he and his wife.
Look for senior if you're looking for him.
Yes, but so if you ever get confused about it, because people have said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you did so much artwork and all this painting and stuff," and I just like, describe the work, and they started, and I said, "Yeah, well, thanks, but that's my son, that's not me." And so, yeah, so he and his wife are both artists, and they're doing their thing, man. So they're incredible.
An artistic family.
Yeah, so. Yeah, look, he took all the memos. He got the training. He did the schooling. He did all that shit. I was like, there's no shortcuts. You don't get to skate.
Yeah.
And he did that shit. So proud of it. I mean, Carnegie Mellon, who the fuck, like, what? What? Dude, wow. One of those things where, you watch people blossom after high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, he didn't have great experience in high school, but he fucking got out and was like, he just figured that shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fucking scholar. What the fuck? Hey, okay.
Nice.
You sure I'm there?
Right. I was thinking in my head, you're like, I created that.
Yeah, but no, we're too much alike. But no, he's had he's awesome. He's had great upbringing. It's his mom, it's his stepdad, it's the whole shebang. So he's awesome. We're all proud of him. We're proud of all of them, both of them. They don't have any kids, but they're always our kids, so they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lyndon, for coming on my platform and sharing your story.
I hope we got through everything because God, it's so much garbage, so much material.
You're awesome.
No, it's been a fun ride. But no, if anyone wants to reach out, they can. Oh, I'm too easy to find. Like I said, the Gram, Facebook, LinkedIn. What else? I'm on Twitter, but I don't even use it. So,
yeah.
But I'm mostly on the Gram, so it's all there. We're too easy to find.
Yes. So go look him up. And to everyone out there, I want you to like so I know it's real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Citadel, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. I'll see you in the next video.
See, you're good at that shit. I give you rattling that shit off. I just gotta think about it.
Bye, people.